Today on the Texas Tribune Weekend Insider. A group of conservationists are introducing Houstonians to the native plants that covered the area before it became the sprawling, developed landscape it is today. Pocket prairies are being planted on small tracts of land throughout the city. But now a pristine 53-acre tract of prairie they have been collecting rare seeds from is scheduled to become a subdivision if they can't raise $250,000 before November 1st. Then Morgan Smith looks at the per-student cost of education in Texas school districts. Read more on these stories this weekend at texastribune.org.
A group of conservationists are trying to reintroduce Houstonians to nature by planting what they call pocket prairies. Pocket prairies are gardens of native plants that would have grown in Houston had it not become development and full of infrastructure and buildings and concrete. Texas coastal prairies have been declining. They're one of the most endangered ecosystems in the entire world. So the idea is to make these pocket prairies across Houston that incorporate some of the plants and landscape from the actual coastal prairies that are left. And by doing that, they can make a pit stop for birds and insects to lay eggs and get food, and also reintroduce Houstonians to the native plants that would have been growing where they live. The larger prairies serve as sort of a seed bank for the pocket prairies. And there's one really great biodiverse prairie, it's 53 acres, that the conservators recently discovered in Deer Park, but unfortunately it had already been scheduled for development by the time that they found it. So now they're struggling to raise the money for the holding fee, that's the $250,000. And then after that, their fundraising efforts will continue to raise the money to buy it from the individual who's going to develop it. It's going to be quite a task.
So we looked at school districts across Texas that had an enrollment of 5,000 students or more because we really wanted to find the districts that are educating most of Texas students. So we separated them out and looked at the cost that it takes to educate one student in their district, including all of their operating expenses. So that's facilities, that's paying for teachers, that's paying for, basically to keep the doors open. We found that there's quite a range actually between what it costs to educate a student in districts across the state. We had districts that were spending, on the lower end around $6,000 a student, and then we had an outlier of about $9,000 a student. But I'd say on average it's around $7,000 a student that districts are spending. We're looking into this as over half of the districts, representing the vast majority of students in the state, are suing the state of Texas because of the way that it finances schools. One of the allegations in these lawsuits is that we actually don't know how much it costs to educate a student in Texas, so how can we know whether or not schools are getting enough money, whether or not they're getting too much money? We just have no way of knowing. One of the things that many hope will come out of the school finance lawsuits is a court-ordered study of how much it costs to educate a child in Texas. So then once we have that number, once we have that figure, we can really look at what districts are spending and understand if the money that they're getting go as far as it needs to, or if there are areas that they can trim back.